1, 2 or 3,000, who knows, but there was a lot of Aboriginal men brought here from right across Western Australia. So the thing about it is today we came on the boat, it was a relatively gentle ride. Some people might say no, I felt a bit crook. But you imagine the Aboriginal men who were not ocean-faring people. Imagine if they, even here in the southwest, the southwesters weren't boat people. From what I can understand, if they came from Kalgoorlie, the people in Kalgoorlie paddled around in boats, probably not. And without going to say, all of a sudden you're reefed from your family, from your loved ones in your country, you're chained up by the neck, you're dragged as far away as the East Kimberleys or Esperance, over to a foreign country in a foreign place. You've been charged with laws of a foreign culture. From what I can see of it, some people were innocent. Some people may well have been guilty of some really heinous and horrible crimes. But anywhere from people, one example I'm aware of, one man found a pipe, a smoking pipe. He went and told the monarchs or the policeman that he found this pipe. The cobble basically said, no, you didn't, you stole it, and basically chained him up and shipped him off to Rottnest. The thing about it is, how did people get to the island in the old days? Well, they didn't come on a nice red ferry like we did today. They basically had to paddle across. So could you imagine the feelings of the men on a boat? And they weren't big boats, they were only just relatively small boats, maybe 20 footers or whatever, paddling out from there over to here. Certainly the men who came from the Swan River region, once they got here, they'd be looking back like we are, back towards the coast. So they've been brought to the island. In the cosmology of the Noongar from this country, the islands are the abodes of spirits. So the conclusion they came to was that because over millennia, once the island separated from the mainland with the sea levels rising up and down, the Aboriginal people that looked across here from where we just come from would see the islands, and the phenomena which they always knew that hinted that there were people about was always, can anyone tell us what it might have been? The phenomena they could observe to tell that there might have been people somewhere?
Smoke.
Sorry?
Smoke.
Smoke. So they saw no smoke here. Not to say that smoke may have risen from lightning or whatever, but by and large, no smoke came off these islands off of Perth. So the Noongars assumed that this was spirit country because no human beings lived there. And of course, when they saw the Europeans come on the boats, well, they thought the Europeans were spirits. They thought they were from the place of Wajimuk and the other islands where the spirits came from. So for the local people, coming here, in their minds, they're coming to a spirit island. So you can imagine how they might start to feel about that. For other Aboriginal men from further afield that were brought here, particularly if you were brought from probably further north, anywhere probably north of Geraldton, where the weather's obviously a bit warmer, moving right up into the Kimberleys where it's a lot different climate to here, could you imagine being brought across? Basically you've got one set of clothes. If you got wet on the boat, there's no hot showers here or spas or to warm up. Basically if you're wet, you're wet. So they would come across, they'd land on this beach here. Could you imagine the sort of feelings that people would have had, all the way here from this isolated place? They've been brought across. They'd come onto this beach, and in the early days, illegally up on that little headland there's some caves there. Supposedly the men were put in the caves first. But one of the things about Rottnest Island, and even still today, the state basically says that the authority, or in those days, the people that ran the island had to make the island self-sustainable, and the state didn't really want to be putting in money. Well, I guess the good thing was that the prisoners, over the years after, I think it was about 1840s or 39 or something, that became a prison. Well, basically the prisoners contributed to the building of all these buildings here you see, the roadways, the lighthouses, all the infrastructure that we see today were built by the labour of the Aboriginal prisoners. The thing about it is eventually once the things get built, later on maybe Noongars, Yamajas, Mulbers, Kimberley folk, when they were brought here, they'd come onto this beach just like you've come here today. And so I brought you here to this little building. I want you to go there and have a look. There's a little information board, but have a look on the doors, people. What are those doors telling you? What are those bars on the grills telling you? What are those big steel hinges telling you? This is a prison. A prison designed for natives of Western Australia and primarily Aboriginal men. No women were brought here as prisoners. It's a man's prison site.